The Daryl Morey offseason masterclass continues as the Sixers found their final starting forward, adding Caleb Martin on a deal. We got the Woj bomb early this morning saying free agent forward Caleb Martin is finalizing a deal with the Philadelphia 76ers, sources tell ESPN. Impactful pickup for the Sixers, who bring on the playoff-tested veteran for the Miami Heat. So this has been a move that we've talked about for a little bit now. It has been clear that he's been the top of the Sixers' remaining wish list, and they got their guy. We got this report from Kyle Neubeck on July 4th. Since they had heard from league source yesterday, Caleb Martin was probably out of the Sixers' realistic offering range, but my understanding is they're still monitoring his market as it plays out. Definite interest. So kind of the situation that the Sixers have been battling is Martin was seeking a higher dollar value than the Sixers could afford, but he also wasn't getting that number from anyone around the league. So there was a bit of this waiting game. That is why things have been so quiet on the Sixers end. It is clear this guy is at the top of the Sixers list. And he is the type of player that I don't think the numbers quite do him justice. To add into what he averaged on the season last year, just 10 points per game, 4.4 rebounds, 2.2 assists, shot 43.1% from the field, 34.9% from three, but he's 6'5", 28 years old, just 32.9% from the corner, 41.5% of his shot being threes, but the dude is a straight-up gamer. He's a playoff riser. He is battle-tested, and he has been a key part of those Miami Heat runs. Just last year against the Celtics in the playoffs, averaged 19.3 points per game over that series. He is a guy who rises up when the moment is at its biggest, and he is a driving force of a lot of that Heat team success, so it is nice to pluck him out. Now, the job is not finished from a Sixers perspective. They still have some work to do here, but we do have a really cool starting five. To look at the overall active roster here, we have Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, and Caleb Martin is essentially going to be the starting five. And that brings a lot more athleticism, a lot more versatility, a lot more switchability in a way that the Sixers team straight up has not had in past years. Think about the starting five with Tyrese Maxey as the point guard, Kelly Oubre, who once again, when he was signed, the notification from Woj says starting two guard, which I do think is interesting to note there, and we clearly see how the puzzle fit together at this point. But then adding Caleb Martin at the three, Paul George playing a little bit of power forward, and for what it's worth, while that seems crazy, I know he's a small forward in everyone's head, he played primarily power forward last year with the Clippers when you look at the actual positional breakdown for the minutes that he logged. And of course, Joel Embiid wrapping things up at the center position there. Now, again, to look at the roster, a couple more notes here that we know Andre Drummond, a key addition, Eric Gordon, a nice addition, a guy who will play some solid minutes there. Ricky Council IV still to be determined. This also did result, as this deal went down, that Paul Reed has officially been waived. I know we've mentioned this and talked about it a decent bit already on this channel. The writing has been on the wall for B-Ball Paul's time in Philadelphia being over. This has nothing to do really with his skill set or the things that he did bring on the floor. Now, granted, if he was a little better, or played a little better last year, we might not be having these conversations. But the reality is the issue was that non-guaranteed contract. That $7.7 million was just frankly more than they could afford to commit to that position, especially after the Andre Drummond signing came in for 2 years and $10 million. To pay Paul Reed more than Andre Drummond, who more than likely is going to have a more minimal role, is just not great business, and that is why the Sixers had to take this angle. I'm a little bit surprised that there was not a trade for Paul Reed. I know that this was something they were shopping for quite some time, and I still very much firmly believe that Paul Reed is an NBA player and in the right situation can be really solid and play an effective role, but I don't think that is Philadelphia. That while it was nice to have kind of a change of pace stylistically for when Joel Embiid steps off the floor, we did see last year pretty clearly that Paul Reed was not a guy that was going to be able to hold down the starting role in the games in which Joel Embiid was out, which is obviously an important part of the job description for backup center of the Philadelphia 76ers. That is something I feel much more comfortable about Andre Drummond, but there is still some work to do from the Sixers roster overall. Now, we got this salary cap update from Yossi Goslin here, saying the Philadelphia 76ers have about $9 million in cap space remaining. That would be great value and gives them an answer as they're starting forward. Sixers presumably capped out. So at the time of me recording this, I did just jump on. It's about 15 minutes since the notification. Might even be a little sooner than that. But I do think I have not seen a number yet. I would think it's pretty likely that this soaks up the remaining cap space and that the Sixers can only work with minimums for now. But I also think this is more of a league-wide issue than something Sixers specifically. Some of kind of the trends in how the free agency period has gone, as we obviously saw the rapid-fire notifications, the max guys getting their money, the big deals being done at the early part of free agency, even the Klay Thompsons of the world and guys like that, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope getting a big deal, then we hit a kind of a lull. And the reason for that is each of these free agents is playing a little bit of this cat and mouse game for which team still has available funds. The Detroit Pistons are a team who gave Malik Beasley $6 million today, and that is a number that has to come purely out of the cap spaces that is above the minimum there. So there's not that many teams with money to throw around at this point, and the Sixers are using that to their advantage. They're now sitting back and waiting and letting for these guys who have their market value higher than the minimum number to be reduced to where the only offers they're looking at is as a minimum number. And for the Sixers team, you got a pretty appealing pitch for why these guys would want to take a veteran minimum and come there. The guys that are, whether they're ring chasing at this point in their career, whether they're guys looking to rebuild their value, maybe have one solid season, then re-enter the market, the Sixers provide a pretty great opportunity. That obviously they have that starting five, the demon time starting fives, I think I'm going to start to call this one, with Tyrese Maxey, Oubre Martin, Paul George, and Joel Embiid. Then pretty much for the taking beyond that. Yes, Andre Drummond will be the guy that is, the primary backup big man. There will be Eric Gordon playing some minutes off the bench there. But beyond that, it's a pretty blank slate for bench production. We'll see what Ricky Council IV's role. We'll see what Jared McCain's role ends up being. I do think McCain will be a player who plays more significant minutes than people are giving him credit. But beyond that, they still need bodies, and I do think people will come for that. So we'll see how things shake out there. As far as positionally, where these Sixers go from here, for me, the absolute clear need that still is on the table is a high-level rebounding power forward. That while I love this demon time starting five, there will be certain matchups where you got to get a little bigger. Precious Achiuwa is a guy that I've mentioned as a Sixers target. I think he's probably out of the price range now. I think the decision probably had to be made between Martin and Achiuwa. I don't disagree with the logic. I also think it should be noted that when you think of the Sixers' failures, why they were so bad, well, for starters, Caleb Martin is a two-way wing. He truly is a guy that can defend at a super high level and knock down shots and catch fire from three. He's that type of player that he does it on both ends of the floor. But when you do think of where these Sixers' shortcomings came in the playoffs in past years, it was never the defensive side of the ball. It was always not having enough options to score, not having enough ways that they can put the ball in the bucket there, and Martin will provide that outlet. I don't think Precious Achiuwa fit that description. He would have been much more of a defensive-minded type player, a guy that could have helped out with that rebounding issue, which I still think is an issue, but there are minimal upgrades around the board here. Paul George, a slightly better rebounder than Tobias Harris. Caleb Martin, slightly better rebounder than some of their past options that they had. A guy like DeAnthony Melton, I'll throw, although Melton a pretty good rebounder for his size there. But there is a significant difference when skying for a rebound when you're 6'2" versus 6'5". So shout out to Caleb Martin for coming to the Sixers here. I do think this is probably the most versatile starting five that we've seen around Joel Embiid, and the one that makes the most sense. That even when you compare it to that Jimmy Butler team with J.J. Redick and Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons, there still were the issues of, Ben Simmons didn't shoot threes. The Sixers can truly play this Joel Embiid and four shooters lineup in a way that could really challenge some teams. And again, I don't want this to get brushed over the rug that Caleb Martin is a Celtics killer, that I've seen firsthand right in full display of some of his best moments coming right with Jason Tatum guarding him or guys like that. That does matter, that you want these battle-tested guys, and that is clearly something these Sixers have paid attention to. So, again, still work to be done with this roster, but this is another great signing from Daryl Morey. You got to find ways to round it out with veterans, but I think this is a starting five that is ready to go toe-to-toe with just about anybody. You add one of these high-level role players, a guy that is a high-level rebounder, high work rate, good defender, add that to this same mix the Sixers team has, and they got a squad right here. So it will be interesting to see who the veteran minimums come in at. I do expect Marcus Morris to ultimately sign on the dotted line at some point soon. It seems like the Sixers are going to be pretty straightforward from here, that nothing above a minimum is on the table. So, guys are going to have to understand that and accept that. But that's the deal with the devil you pay when you're bringing three top 25 guys onto one team in Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid. You got a little wiggle room beyond that, and that is the mindset. So obviously there are risks to come with all this. The injury concerns have been loud and clear from plenty of people, and totally fair, absolutely. But if you're just building the best team you can possibly get, it's tough to do much better than what Daryl Morey has done this offseason. So we will see how the rest of the roster shapes out from here, but the Caleb Martin signing should be signed as an absolute win for this Sixers team. I cannot wait to see him in a Sixers uniform and doing his thing on the biggest stage. He's a guy that I've been a fan of since his days at Nevada. He is a gamer. He is a guy that competes incredibly hard on both ends of the floor, and I think that all is going to be embraced at quite a high level here in Philadelphia. So appreciate you guys for tuning into this video here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on the Caleb Martin signing, any concerns that you may have, or any other thoughts below. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you have not already, and dropping a like on this video here. I'll be talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.